Glad we could make it. Perfect. Ready for Frank About Health? We're ready to talk honestly. This is Frank About Health. Let's get real.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. This is a very special episode for me. I bring with me to this episode my co-host of Frank About Health from the days at TalkRadio.nyc. Her name is Dr. Phyllis Quinlan. You see all of her credentials below at her name tag, but she is more than just a professional. She is a true friend, and she has been a very big supporter for me recently in terms of caregiving strategies, ideas, thoughts, solutions for dealing with my father's recent visit to the hospital, among other things. Now, I am here to bring her to this new world of E360 TV because we have big plans in store for all of you who have been watching on the network as well as on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We want to just cover this episode to talk about some of the highlights that we had shared together, especially over the last 18 months or so, and then also have a moment where Phyllis can talk about a piece of work that she's been really highlighting on several of our episodes, but now a book is coming out soon, and she's going to feature some details about it. And then we're going to talk about something that we're going to create together right here on the network, which I think all of you out there will find very enlightening and inspirational. If I were to issue a medical disclaimer, it's simply this. These are not the views of the network or of this show, but they are the views of our history together, myself and Phyllis Quinlan. And we just want to say that we're not here to dissuade you from any ongoing medical protocols that you're undertaking for yourself or your family for any mental or physical illnesses or conditions you might have. We're just here to give you food for thought and inspiration. So, Phyllis, thank you for bearing with me on all of our technical difficulties, but I know we're going to come up with a jewel. We always do. And of course,
it's always
welcome to Frank About Health.
Well, thank you. It's always wonderful to be here with you. You know that.
Yes, I do. And either way, I just want to say thank you for joining me. This, to me, is a full circle moment. I know that in the old days, we used to do 12 episodes per season. It's not that way here. It's usually 26, but I'm at my 12th episode. And for that reason, I wanted to commemorate just our history together because, like the episode says, this is the legacy and the future of Frank About Health. I am pivoting, as you already know, but at the same time, I'm doing a big service for the profession, the nurses, the doctors, the hospital systems, everything that we've always talked about. But now it's about taking action. We are living in very difficult times, and it's really the patients that have the control. We just have to take it back. Right. And I think that what we've been talking about on the 50 plus episodes that we've co-hosted together. We're just being advocates and I guess freedom fighters of sorts. And we do have some resources at our disposal, but if it wasn't for you and also the guests that we have brought on together, which we'll reminisce about in a bit, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we have. I think I remember telling you that after, you had joined me for the first time in season 1, way back in 2021, that I thought after your show, I was probably going to last another 6 weeks. And then I made you my co-host. And here we are 5 years later. So
it's been 5 years? Wow.
Yeah. May 28th, 2021. So it's a little over 5 years right now.
A little over 5 years. Wow. Well, first of all, let me just say congratulations on how this program, has grown. All right. This program has always been a program devoted to raising awareness and promoting advocacy. Now, advocacy, whether it's, individuals advocating for another patient or a disease entity or a program, or just really encouraging people to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely.
Those have been the two guiding themes, and we've been very fortunate to bring in a variety of guests who talk about a variety of subjects in the
Yes.
5 years. And I'm happy that this has grown to this platform for you, and I am excited to be invited to be part of the future.
Yes.
But happy to walk down memory lane with you tonight.
I guess the first thing we should talk about is when you first came on the show, we were talking about caregiving and we were talking about caregiver burnout and things like that. I don't have the footage of our big 6-person panel, but, Rita Ray was on there, and as well as friends of yours, colleagues of yours. Let's share with the people a little bit of that history as to how we spun off from there.
That was a very dynamic panel that we had on that particular episode. But what we were really trying to spotlight or, shine an awareness beam on was just how difficult it is to be a family caregiver.
Right.
And what is it that is the responsibility of the professional caregivers in and around the family caregiving. So we were talking about having people have what we call literacy in healthcare. In other words, that they can speak well to the issues that they are living with. So if they are living with diabetes, if they are living with Parkinson's, if they are living with asthma, that they're fluent in those health issues, so that they can understand when we talk about diagnostic studies, or we talk about treatment options, or we talk about discharge planning or home care, and what the family caregiver may or may not be responsible for. That there was just a little bit more of weaving together a much clearer picture than those of us who are in professional caregiving hear from time to time. We are under a federal mandate. When I say we, the healthcare industry,
yes.
we're under a mandate to reduce what we call avoidable readmissions to a hospital within 45 days of discharge. That's a national benchmark.
Right.
Right. And one of the leading causes of a return within that 45-day window, a readmission, is that there's two main ones. One of them is not understanding your medications, or the fact that you needed to do follow-up visits.
Right.
Or, quite honestly, non-adherence to the instructions to take your medications and follow up with your private doctor. So, it's a six of one and half dozen of the other. But the other, the other leading cause that we all know of is caregiver fatigue. That it's just all encompassing when you're trying to be an adult and have your own life. If you have family obligations, if you're working full time, and now you are, in essence, having a second full-time job in doing the family caregiving. So, that particular episode really, was one of offering empathy and compassion to the family caregivers that were out there, and letting them know that we were, very much aware of the journey that they're on, and very much in awe of their generosity and their ability to give, when giving seems almost impossible. And, we were talking a little bit about, subacute care. We were talking about long-term care options, home care options.
Yes.
And then we were talking about even putting, trying to gather friends around you who want to help but don't know how to help.
Right.
Or want to do something but are not feeling confident or competent in offering physical care.
Right.
Are happy to drive you to a doctor's appointment, or happy to walk the dog, or happy to help you with, setting up online banking so that your bills can be taken care of that much more easily.
Yes.
We don't often hear, in the face of what we hear with all the media noise, we don't often hear about just the ordinary good person who sees and has empathy for someone else's struggle and has a little bit of, how can I help? And there, for the grace of God, I need to help, because that could be me.
Exactly.
And that was such a powerful program, really honoring the selflessness and generosity of the family caregivers, and really hoping at that point that we would get more or extended help, so that the plight of the family caregiver could be weaved into some social support programs.
Right. Yes.
That as I recall, that's probably about 4 years ago. As I recall, that was the essence of that program. It was very powerful.
And we had some interaction from the people that were watching on YouTube, and actually no Facebook. We were only Facebook at that point.
That's right.
And being that TalkRadio.nyc was predominantly a radio network, the option of having a video presentation was a benefit. It was, especially during the times of COVID, when everybody was still on lockdown and all you could do was communicate with each other through Zoom and the other virtual platforms that we were operating under at that time. Yeah. I think I remember the numbers we had on that show. Now, of course, it's a smaller scale compared to this particular network, but I would say a 10% response compared to what this network brings, that was pretty good for me at that time. And that's when we were able to even bridge out and go towards other kinds of directions. And
well, I think we listened to the listeners. We listened to your viewers, and we took our cue from them that we were onto something that they wanted more of. So, we kind of put our heads together to see what kind of variety of subjects we could talk about. Again, with the whole idea of raising awareness of certain conditions, and certainly, championing the whole idea of advocacy, whether it's you advocating for yourself or the individual advocating for a societal need.
Yes. And then do you remember shortly thereafter when I gave you that magical call and said, how would you like to be my co-host on Frank About Health? I can tell you what the response I heard on the other end, but I would rather hear what you had, what your response was, so that way it'd be more.
I think there was a long silence before there was a response. When I'm usually pretty good at anticipating a few things. I've been known to have a lot of intuition and, highly sensitive, and, I can kind of not see the future, but kind of start to connect dots so that the next step seems clear.
Yes.
But boy, oh boy, you took me quite by surprise. I never saw that coming. I never did, but it was an honor. Yes. And I took it very seriously, and wanted to honor your invitation as well as your work and the mission of the whole program. And it was, as an executive coach and a personal coach, I have often told my clients they have to get comfortable with taking risk. Well, let me tell you, it was really, be careful what you wish for, or the universe laughing like, well, let's see how you do. Right. So it was a leap of faith for you. It was a leap of faith for me. And, and I highly recommend leap of faiths because it turned out wonderfully.
Absolutely. And I mean, if anything, even, you were also not just that 2-hour share the care panel. Well, I think it was caregiving panel was my first 2-hour show.
Right.
But prior to me coming to E360 TV, you were also my last TalkRadio.nyc show.
That's right.
So I thought it was a perfect bookend.
It was.
Exactly.
And I'm looking, I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to future adventures with you.
Absolutely. And then, of course, one such adventure that we took off on was bringing Judy Mandel. You and I were talking, we need a show on addiction. And I want you to share with the audience how this addiction show became more than that. It's definitely a function of our chemistry.
This particular show, well, first of all, blessings to Judy. She's an incredible soul. And if you have an opportunity to, read any of her books, you are going to learn a wealth of knowledge. She is incredibly transparent and just a joy. Her story about addiction was not her own personal addiction as such, but more family addiction and how she was supporting people in her family.
Mm-hmm.
But the irony that came out is that it didn't turn out to be a show about addiction as it was more of a show about a syndrome I was totally unaware of.
Same here, yeah.
And it's called replacement child syndrome.
Yes.
So when she first said that to me, on the show, well, I'd like to speak about, replacement child syndrome. I was like, what? Okay.
Absolutely.
Now I've been doing this an awfully long time, and, I have the degree in social work on top of everything else, and I've never heard of this. And then when she explained it, so for, the benefit of people who are listening tonight, replacement child syndrome occurs in a family where a child is lost.
Yes.
And through, an accident, a chronic illness, whatever the case may be, the parents lose a child, and and then they go into this grieving process, and which we all would do,
right.
And but they take it to a little bit of a different level, where wittingly or unwittingly they have another child, and more than likely they are not aware that as they're raising that child,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to superimpose the identity of the lost child onto this new child.
Yes.
So that the child is not born into the family, not necessarily even conceived into the family, with the idea of being its own entity with its own identity and its own ability to contribute
Mm-hmm.
and receive love.
Yeah.
But it's the child is born with a job. And the job is to help the parents close the grief loop on the loss of the first child.
Right.
And they are there in service of that need, as opposed to being able to have their own life.
Correct.
You
And
know,
it also was answering about an addiction issue.
well,
It made you
it
show
would
it was
be
more
the
than
least
just
of it
addiction.
after that. Do you know what I mean? If you come to, the conclusion that, you weren't, you weren't conceived in love and raised in a family that was excited about who you would be and what your secret sauce would be all about, and interested in learning about you and what you're going to be like, and, celebrating all your landmarks and, all your benchmarks and all your achievements, but really raising you and shaping you to be the other child. I don't know Judy was so tremendous in trying to be able to share with us what that felt like. And then how that bubbles up and how that shapes your entire life. And, and then of course, Jennifer Grigg, Dr. Jennifer Grigg, who specializes in forgiveness and dignity.
Mm-hmm.
She's a forgiveness coach. That's how she lists herself on LinkedIn. She came in a different episode, and we were talking with her about this, and she was saying that the number one step for the person who is the replacement child is to find the strength and the ability of character, the strength of character and the strength of compassion. Grace. Yeah, grace, compassion, to be able to forgive all of that, and then kind of put all of that down and then go forth living their own life. And you can imagine the strength of courage that must take.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a program where you could have heard a pin drop, because you and I were just like mesmerized.
I think my mouth was.
Yes, I'm sure we were both looking like that. And what struck me was the composure that Judy had, and the insights that she had, and the way that she has processed this, the way she was raised, and she has, made a lot of lemonade out of lemons. That's it's as
Yeah.
cliche as I'm sorry I'm using a cliche, but I don't know how you get to that point of forgiveness where you can speak about it with compassion about your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And she could, and she was really speaking about forgiveness of her parents,
Yes.
but then having the courage to say, okay, but I have to put some distance now between you and because I have a life to live and it's my own, and now I have to find it because I wasn't raised that way.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
And I think what Jennifer brought to that was an answer that not only deals with replacement child syndrome and addiction or depression or other kinds of mental and emotional illness, but she had said on our shows that she struggled with her identity because of that syndrome. And
Mhm.
then when Jennifer brought in the concept of dignity,
Yeah.
it's like a light bulb went off with her.
For all of
And
us. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I guess most people during that time, I mean, it was after World War II, around the time when that fire happened at the home that killed her sister.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they were just not in a position to really question why they had a very unstructured sense of identity. I guess when you are raised in a home as kind of the replacement child, not only is the identity of that new child not fully developed or enhanced or even motivated to develop, but gone is the sense of dignity that comes with
Right.
self-awareness.
Well, what Jennifer was so eloquent about is that, there has to be a respect for the individual, that
Mm-hmm.
that's you have to have a respect for yourself. And part of the respect for yourself means that you're not going to say what happened was okay. You're not going to kind of like let anybody off the hook for the inappropriateness of what happened.
Right.
But you are going to decide to have enough self-respect to put that down and not carry it with you, as we say, you're taking your baggage with you through life. In other
Right.
words, it is a self-compassionate decision based in your own self-respect to
Mm-hmm.
say, I deserve better,
Yeah.
and leave it behind and then decide to go forward. What Jennifer kept repeating and has stuck with me was that dignity is a birthright, and that this was probably one of the more serious dignity violations she had ever encountered,
Right.
because, again, the child couldn't advocate for themselves. And it's very likely that the parents are not necessarily fully aware of what they're doing or why. It's just the way the family is structured, functioning,
Right.
dysfunctioning. Uh,
Right.
but to understand completely that dignity is a birthright that is afforded everyone. In most cases, respect is earned over time, depending
Mm-hmm.
on situations, challenges, and things of that nature. But we should always remember that we have to afford and should afford easily the dignity of, to every human being.
Right. Right. And then that just, I guess, is a natural segue to the unique styles of your colleague, Peggy Pellizzari, because she didn't have issues of being a replacement child,
No.
but she had issues of following a life that really what was it, her mother or just both her parents wanted for her,
Well,
being that she was living with diabetes.
right. So Peggy always wanted to go into theater and dance.
Yes.
All right, that was her calling. That's where her heart was, and everything was going along that route. As a young child, I want to be an actress. I want to be a dancer.
Hmm.
And then at 13, Peggy was diagnosed with insulin-dependent diabetes,
That would
and
be
of
type
course,
1,
that,
right?
that that's right. That's type 1, and it obviously that was going to shape the remainder of her life. And when Peggy kind of confided to her mom, or so she has shared with me, when she confided with her mom, I want to be a dancer, I want to be this, I want to be that. Her mother very seriously said, Peggy, you're going to be living with diabetes forever. All right. You need to find a profession that is going to afford you the best access to healthcare you possibly can, because literally your life will depend on it.
Right.
So, that's a hard thing. You get a teenager who's got hopes and dreams, just like every other teenager. And now there is this life-altering diagnosis. But if you know Peggy, not much stops her. And she decided to go ahead and become a nurse. And she started out in critical care and, did some of the regular things that most nurses will do. And then she specialized in caring for children who are living with diabetes, whether they're new onset or they're type 2 diabetes. She has devoted 20 plus years to that profession.
Right.
So what she was talking to us about was the idea of how she was advocating for affordable insulin. Okay, that she is one of the champions for the $35 vial of insulin. She was working with Senator Schumer in order to get insulin to be $35 a vial here in New York.
Right.
She was really the living embodiment of advocacy as you and I know it. Right.
Yes.
Then she was talking about the advocacy she needs to do as the endocrine practice nurse, where she would be interfacing with school nurses.
Yes.
And, the mother would call Peggy to say that the school is not going to let the child go on a trip, like the zoo or, wherever the kids, everybody else is going. And the reason for that is that nobody felt comfortable having a child with diabetes go to the program. All right. Mm-hmm. And then Peggy would pick up the phone and speak to the school nurse and say, are you familiar with human rights? That child has a right to go to the zoo just like anybody else. And it shouldn't be because she has diabetes that's stopping. And the next thing you know, the school nurse was going on the trip. So she would advocate in those ways. She always stayed on the cutting edge of what was new and different. Obviously, in Peggy's time, you had to do the finger stick, and then you had to throw up insulin in a needle, and you had to self-administer. And she is the champion now of using what we call insulin pumps, which gives you a much better coverage. Or the better the coverage of your diabetes, the lower the risk for complications from diabetes.
Right.
But I have good news to share with you. I have a happy ending to this story, as if Peggy's story enough wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But, Peggy left her conventional practice because she completed her doctorate in nursing practice. She is now Dr. Peggy.
Awesome.
So she finished her DNP, and she is now working for a pharmaceutical durable medical equipment company, and she's traveling the country advocating, teaching, and promoting.
Is she still doing dancing on the side?
So there's the other thing. That's true. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
So Peggy's most fond form of dancing is belly dancing.
Yeah.
And she is still performing. She is still taking lessons.
Beautiful.
She's still with her troupe, and she is still performing. Yes.
Nice. Wow. Oh, wow. I can't believe that show was about 3 years ago, right?
I know, it's a while. Yeah, we're really going down memory lane here.
Oh, yes, we are.
But again, we've been so lucky to have some incredible people. I think that was your most watched show ever.
Yes, I think 500 views. Well, again, based on, I think it was just Facebook alone.
Right.
But the thing is that in terms of just the first three people we talked about, Judy, as well as Jennifer, and now Peggy, we're seeing a common through line here of advocacy.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that Frank About Health, which I've always has said, whether it's on Talk Radio or here on E360, has initially began as an epilepsy show. Mm-hmm. And it just mushroomed into a movement of sorts. And
but that's a testament to you, Frank, okay? Because, epilepsy is life-changing, okay? But it didn't stop you. In fact, it propelled you. All right. Yes, you started to, say, okay, I'm going to be living with this. This is not going away. We don't have a cure. We can manage it, but no cure. But, how can I, in working through that reality within yourself, you were able to get to a point where you wanted to, and you felt compelled to, sharing information with others. And I think every professional caregiver and advocate, regardless of how their advocacy or caregiving manifests, has that moment where the wheels fell off and now we have a decision to stop, or we have a decision to put the wheels back on and keep going. And
Exactly.
blessings to that decision. With Judy, she, had that reality of, what was going on with why she, her parents welcomed her into the family. With Jennifer is an oncologist, and, working with people who are in very desperate times in their life. And she's talking about forgiveness and dignity. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy is the start of her teenage years, was, challenged with a life-altering diagnosis. And here she went to nursing school and, really, leaned in and tried to show other children of various ages that, this is a fact, this is your reality, but it's not going to stop you.
Right.
She would often talk about, going into a child with a new diagnosis, and they're going to talk about the insulin pump. And you can imagine the parents like fading in and out. It's just too much information and they're trying to process it. The child's looking at it, well, easy for you to say, but then Peggy would pick up her blouse and show her pump. And she would say, listen, if I can do it and I'm here, and that would change the whole setting.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing how we all come to our advocacy calling, how we manifest that advocacy calling, but it's so very, very important that we capitalize on all those opportunities to do so.
Absolutely. And yet we also did have another show where the individual couldn't advocate for herself. If you recall, it was Bill and Frankie James.
Yes, and Teresa.
About Teresa. Now, I think her name was Teresa James.
I believe so.
Oh, no, actually, it wouldn't be Teresa James because Frankie was her sister who married Bill. So I don't remember what Teresa's last name is.
I don't know what Teresa's last name is. Right, but it's Teresa. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
But in this particular episode, this was the story of, a sister who had her younger sister. I believe it was her younger. I think Teresa was younger. Her younger sister was born with Down syndrome. And it was a matter of advocating for Teresa's rights and really getting Teresa into programs where whatever Teresa's potential was going to be, she was going to be given every support and opportunity to reach that potential and then some. And it's a wonderful story. And they were so courageous because they found themselves in some contentious, arguments with the Canadian government and with family members and other things until they finally got sole custody of Teresa and then could have her live in an environment that was healthy, nurturing, supportive, therapeutic. And as I recall, Teresa was doing some amazing art. So that was another program about family caregivers, and not just the weight of family caregiving day to day, but now layer on top of that, people saying you're not doing a good enough job, people wanting to take, your family member away or do other things, and then having to navigate the legal system and the healthcare system in order to know in your heart what is right for your sister and to stay the course of advocating for her best interest in her health. That was a very courageous story. And I, as a big sister, I could identify with Frankie, but the person I was in awe of was Bill, Frankie's husband, because, I just, these types of things and these types of advocacies and these types of all-consuming moments can make or break a relationship. And marriage is hard enough, all right, on a good day without all of this going on and the expense of what was going on. But
Yes.
Bill stayed the course and was doing the right thing regardless. And I was in awe of his ability to find the strength of character, not just to be a good husband, but to be a good brother-in-law and to be a good
Yes.
man and to
Yes.
really support the whole process. I thought he was really amazing.
Now, refresh my mind a bit. Was it Bill that actually also brought the case that happened in Canada to the United States for the same rights for people with Down syndrome?
I think he's been trying to share that information in the sense of raising awareness and advocacy. I know they wrote a book,
Great.
and they were doing that. And I think there was a bit of a documentary at some point, but it's been a while, and I'm not totally sure, but I want to say there was a little bit of a documentary
Yes.
created about that as well.
I think it was based on the book. It was Saving Teresa.
Saving Teresa or
Yes.
something along those lines. But
Yes.
again, incredible people that we keep, meeting,
Yes.
and we happen upon in our search for the next thing to offer your listeners. And keeping in mind, it's always going to center on caregiving and advocacy.
Yes.
And I guess also taking a page out of Jennifer's, book, promoting dignity.
Yes. And she also does have a podcast, by the way. It's called The Dignity Lab, right?
That it is.
Yes.
That it is. So, we just have been very, very blessed to offer this kind of content. I feel very blessed to be able to,
Yes.
offer this kind of content and champion these people, to give them a forum to, again, help them raise the awareness and
Yes.
help them, advocate in the manner that they're choosing to do.
Absolutely. Now, there is another photo, but I think that's more in relation to the future parts of Frank
Okay.
About Health that we will discuss. However, this might be your moment to talk about what you're working on in the present. So I'm going to show everyone a copy of your book cover and give you literally 3-5 minutes, whatever you feel you need to promote it, being that it isn't released yet. I know you said the timeline is shifting a bit, but hopefully we will be in the position to help really bring it the momentum it deserves once it's ready for release. But I wanted you to give the audience a bit of a teaser or some discussion points that you felt you wanted to reflect, not just on the advocacy work we've done together, but also how it fits what you've been doing as well.
Right. Well, Frank, I can't thank you enough for an opportunity to showcase the book and showcase the work. As you know, I am a nurse and I do have hospital-based work. I am a professional coach certified by the International Coaching Federation, and I do hospital-based coaching. But I also have a consulting firm, and my consulting firm is, I've had it since 1994. It's a wonderful little engine that could, me, myself, and I operation. And I have had the honor and pleasure of doing a lot of public speaking, doing a lot of coaching and training, and then working with healthcare executives in team building.
Yes.
And trying to create healthier work environments. So the creation of a healthy work environment is an overarching passion of mine when we talk about executive coaching, because the idea of having anyone have a career. Now, you can be a professional caregiver. It can manifest as a physician, a nurse, respiratory therapist, social worker, child life, rehab, all of those things. These are, and I honestly feel that anybody who works in a healthcare environment, in their soul, whether they're clinical or not, are professional caregivers, because you don't have to choose to work in a hospital, let alone a trauma center or a heart center or a cancer center. These are trying environments at best. But if you choose to work there, you have this calling, and it's a way of keeping your compassionate nature alive.
Yes.
Well, over the years, and I've been in nursing 40 plus years, and 3/4 of that in leadership, you find that there are things that can distract you and from your mission and purpose, and then start to distance you from your mission and purpose. And it doesn't have anything to do with the practice of your profession. It has everything to do with the industry of healthcare or the industry of law. Not
Yes.
necessarily wanting to be an attorney, but the industry of law, okay? Or the
Yes.
industry of AI and digital. That
Yes.
these are not just moments that are for the healthcare professionals in industry. You embark upon a profession
Mm-hmm.
with a certain set of ideals and hopes and dreams in your head. And then
Mm-hmm.
there is this collision. And I think I remember in my senior year of nursing school, way back when, they called it reality shock. All right. The reality of what you think your profession is versus how it dovetails into the structure of the organization, the culture of the organization, and the business of the organization.
Yep.
So, for professional caregivers, I often say you cannot reconcile the practice of your caring profession with the business of healthcare. They're not meant to reconcile. One is business,
Yep.
the other is a professional calling.
Correct.
They'll
Correct.
never align. Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
never. But if you keep trying to put this square peg in that round hole, what you're going to get is frustration and anger and all of it. And
Yep.
that certainly,
Burnout.
that certainly can distance you away from why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
The mission and the purpose of why you became who you became.
Yes.
The other piece to that, all right, is there are healthy workplaces, and this is not an original thought. There are toxic workplaces, and we've all
Right.
either experienced one or two of them, or we have heard of friends and families who are trapped in a toxic work environment. And to try to practice at the top of what you want to do in an unhealthy workplace,
Mm-hmm.
it's like pushing a boulder uphill, and then it rolls down and you got to push it up again and rolls down and all of that. And it's never ending. And it could lead to burnout, but burnout, not in the sense of physical exhaustion, although that's a piece of it.
Right.
It's more of a body, mind, and spirit disassociation with mission and purpose, to where you get up in the morning and you can no longer connect with why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, I call that a sin against God, because your compassionate nature is a gift from the universe.
Right.
And if something interferes with that or destroys that or distances that's really a crime. It's a crime. Now, we all have a certain amount of personal responsibility to take care of ourselves. We have some personal responsibility to develop our sense of resilience and well-being, to strengthen us against the realities of life.
Yes.
Okay. But I call creating a healthy work environment the leadership mandate of the 21st century. And you want to know why you can't recruit, let alone retain, why people are leaving professions, or they're staying clinical, but they're practicing in a very different area or venue or in a very different way.
Right.
And you want them to come back to the bedside, but you still have a dysfunctional culture or a dysfunctional workplace.
Mm-hmm.
My generation of baby boomers may have put up with that.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the next generation, Gen X's and Gen millennials, were
Yes.
likely to put up with that and demanded better. Thank God.
Yes.
But we now know the Gen Zs are like later for this. They don't even want to hear about this. They have such a wonderful focus on mental health and not pushing yourself when you have nothing left to give, which is what can push you into that burnout piece.
Yes.
That they are very much looking for, and I don't know if they'll ever actually find a work-life integration or work-life balance, but they have a stronger sense of what's healthy and what's not.
Yes. Yes.
Which
Absolutely.
means they are 1/3 of our workforce. 1/3.
Yes.
Okay, and growing literally by the day. Okay,
Yes.
so if this is what matters most to them, and you are not realizing this as a leader, and you are not devoting a significant portion of what you do for a living to, into creating and sustaining a healthy work environment, you're going to miss the boat. You're going to bleed talent. People are going to be leaving. And there's so much collateral benefit from creating a healthy work environment.
Yes.
So it has been a subject that has been in the literature now probably 25 years, maybe even a little bit more. And there are, people. There are those people that they put forth. Well, what creates a healthy work environment? What's the definition? What are the components, the building blocks?
Right.
And I think everybody's pretty much in agreement that it's communication, collaboration, quality leadership, feeling as though you are being recognized for your efforts. And the ability to participate in decision making, okay? Because this is the most educated workforce ever. So they're not going to tolerate the message coming down from the mountain. They want participatory governance. They want to participate, a shared governance in what things look like. And there's a lot on all of these various different components in the literature about what creates and can sustain a healthy work environment. And as I read them, I coupled that with personal experience and what I am really hearing a lot from my coaching clients. And I realized that there was a missing piece to this healthy work environment puzzle. And that missing piece was understanding and effectively addressing disruptive behavior in the workplace. This is what the book is about. Okay, so the book is a treatment on, the whole idea of what a healthy work environment is. What are some of the components that are out there that make a healthy work environment? But understanding, my perspective in the book is understanding that there are two forms of disruptive behavior. The first being chronic incivility. Now, the person who's chronically uncivil may be a nice enough person, but they have low emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Okay. They can't get to work on time. They can't get back from break on time. They bring their private lives into the workplace. They're constantly distracting. They never finish their work, and then you have to finish their work. The best definition of someone who's chronically uncivil is if that person calls out sick, even though you're going to work short, you're going to have a better day.
Yeah. Yeah, I
agree. You don't have to put up with that nonsense.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, that's fortunately the bigger part of the disruptive behavior umbrella. Okay. Yeah. Is that most of what we need to deal with in the workplace are people who I call chronically uncivil. The smaller portion, but equally damaging, is the person who's engaging in the abusive behavior of bullying.
Yes. And they might actually be skilled and have emotional intelligence, but they probably are already reacting from a place of burnout. Would that be safe to say?
No.
Oh, okay. That's why you can verify it.
Not according to how I view it. Now, it could be from a different angle, but not according to how I view it. I am equating the personality of a bully with the personality of narcissism.
Oh, I agree with that too. Yes.
Okay. So that, when someone engages in abusive behavior, the whole planet, we are not trained enough in aberrant behavior to feel comfortable in effectively dealing with it. All right. We sidestep it. We put it to the side. We tell the two people who are having trouble, fix it on yourself. I'm not your mother, kind of thing. We throw it to human resources, who throws it back. We are just not schooled in the nature of human behavior, let alone the nature of aberrant behavior, other than our beloved behavioral health colleagues.
Right.
So we don't have that understanding of what we're looking at. And if we're not able to understand what's going on with this person and what's motivating their behavior, then you're not able to manage it effectively and also understand is there a remedy or is there not a remedy?
Right.
Okay. So in the book, I talk a lot about the nature of a narcissistic mentality. Because what I want leaders to understand is it's very, very different. The narcissistic mentality is a classic mentality that is motivated in very, very different ways than many of us are motivated. And it's hard for us to grasp it, let alone hold on to it, and then respond appropriately to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
The person who's chronically uncivil is a little bit easier to manage, but takes a lot of energy because you have to stay on top of them. Their low emotional intelligence also creates a sense of all about me. They don't read the room. But it's not as though they can't learn to read the room. Now, as an employer, do you have the time, resources, and patience to grow an adult in your employee?
No.
Likely not. Right. So you can give them a couple of resources, but you can't kind of complete that adult processing piece.
Right.
So the book talks about how to effectively assess whether the person is an actual bully or whether you're dealing with someone who's chronically uncivil. It talks about the managerial approaches. It talks about working with human resources. And then it talks about options. Do you pour resources into someone, and what do you do? And then, as in every human resource story, it's going to come down to how effectively are you documenting what's going on, because at the end of the day, your process in trying to work with this person has to be supported by documentation that tells an accurate story.
Yes, documentation has become key for me in dealing with narcissists, both at the caregiver and familial levels, especially when it came to my father. So I understand.
So the book is hopefully raising awareness. And then really I intended it to be more or less a guide and a workbook for leaders in me advocating for the leader and saying, I want you to consider these approaches in working with people who are bringing disruptive behavior into the workplace. And I'd like them to find the managerial courage to be able to deal with these people effectively, because they only make up about 15% of the workforce, which means that 85% of the workforce is laboring under the influence or the toxicity of these disruptive behaviors. So if you don't effectively deal with your, bully or your chronically uncivil employee, more than likely you're going to start bleeding talent from the 85% who's hanging out, who's coming in every day, trying to do the right thing and work at their highest level.
That's a perfect segue to the future of Frank About Health. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've already made it clear, there will be more episodes of Frank About Health, including next week. But because of Phyllis's dynamic approach to everything you've heard throughout the last 50 or so minutes, from caregiving to working with the legal profession to help guide the right relationships when doing caregiving, or even working appropriately with fellow colleagues in the workplace, we are going to create a limited series that will be both instructional and also very enlightening with some of the guests that we actually featured on our reminiscent trip back at TalkRadio.nyc. Now, we are not sure yet of the title or of the time frame, but it'll be soon, and in line with, I presume, the release of your book, and you'll let me know when that all finalizes.
Hopefully.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Hopefully, yes. No more delays.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And like I said, there was another picture I had, but you know what? I may actually do a separate episode with her and Phyllis, and therefore I'm going to save the best for another episode. But the point is, what you have heard from me and Phyllis over the last close to an hour is that Frank About Health is exactly not just my name, but what we have both been trying to be with all of you. Open, transparent, direct, informative, enlightening, and trying to erase stigmas and misinformation, which there is plenty of in today's world. So it is necessary for us to reband together and not only continue on special high-profile Frank About Health episodes, which I promise there will be, but we will definitely dedicate a 6-episode limited series together to really give all of the more insights that we have covered upon today. And I hate the fact that here I am reminiscing with you and I got to pretty much sign off. But I have to say, I think, Phyllis, we did cover everything that we want. Did I leave anything unsaid that you wanted to share with the audience?
I don't think so, Frank. I'm really looking forward to the limited series. Again, you floored me when you offered me this opportunity, just like you floored me when you said come and co-host.
Yes.
And, I think we have talked about this and brainstormed enough to know that, we'd like to try to, again, advocate, raise awareness for those individuals who are leaders. Both of us have come to learn and acknowledge over the years that it all starts with leadership.
Yes.
And the stronger the leader, the healthier the team, and more than likely the healthier the work environment. And that all translates into patient care, customer service, whatever your profession is.
Yes.
And this 6-part series will be six parts talking about some of the fundamental things that leaders in the 21st century need to tackle from a very humanistic standpoint. And I am excited and honored to work with you on that.
Same here. And as our friend Jennifer Griggs had said, forgiveness is giving up all hope of a better past, which is what we will emphasize with her during that series.
Got to go forward.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to sign off, and hopefully you'll see my nice closing credits. Remember, when I'm being frank about health, I am sharing the common thread of health and wellness for the patients, which are us, that are also advocates, depending on your condition, and simultaneously working within a system, which, as you remember from Terry Mulligan's appearance on Frank About Health, he said it's pretty much broken. And we ourselves have to take back that power. So we're not an audience in our care. We are actually subscribing to the right method for all of us. So thanks again, Phyllis, for being on what would be both a reunion and an anniversary show, as well as a commemorative one for where we're going to go into the future.
That is true.
And I guess see you all next week, everybody. Then I guess thanks again for watching.
Have a good night.
Exactly. See here.